Use code 8th Place Dave to save 5% on your order at Face to Face Games, Canada's largest Magic the Gathering store, where qualified orders receive free shipping Canada wide. Support the channel and visit facetofacegames.com today. So I just got back from the Commander Legends Battle for Baldur's Gate pre-release at my LGS, and it was pretty cool. It was actually my first experience playing in a Commander tournament. Pretty much every time when I play Commander, it's just with my friends, either at home or online. Never really played much Commander with other people, but yeah, it was pretty fun. So what I want to do is just tell you about my experience, do like a mini kind of deck tech, I guess, and then we'll open up my prize packs also. So not really that many people showed up for the tournament. There were only 7 of us. So we did the draft and then split into pods of one of 4 people and then one of 3. Actually, there was a bit of confusion at my LGS, and I feel like this probably happened at a lot of stores as well, because this is something that confused me initially also. We got our pre-release kits, and then when it came time to start, they said, okay, you can start making your deck now, because pretty much everyone was under the impression that it's going to be a sealed tournament, because that's what pre-releases are, right? They're always sealed. But with Commander Legends, it's not. It's draft. And I feel like a lot of people unless they, went to the Wizards website and read specifically about this event, they would just assume that this is going to be sealed also. But we actually had to go and look up, the article from Wizards and see, is this supposed to be draft? And yeah, it turns out it's draft. So we had to kind of reset a little bit and do our draft and then build our decks. But yeah, we got that figured out. So this is the commander that I went with, this Kadira, Caller of the Small. I didn't first pick this. There was a reason that I went with these colors actually, because of the pre-release promo that I opened that you'll see in a moment, and then also I got a pretty good white rare, so I felt like I wanted to play white. Then early on I saw this commander come by, I took this. Thought, maybe I'll end up playing this. I wasn't sure, but it ended up this was my commander, and it actually worked out quite well. I think this is a pretty good card. It's an uncommon commander, so it might not immediately seem like the most powerful one, but it is a pretty decent effect, actually. So let's just take a look at it. It's 3 mana, 3/3 Orc Ranger. It has Trample, which is pretty important. Although it says whenever it deals combat damage to a player, for each token you control, create a 1/1 white rabbit creature token. So that can actually get kind of out of control. So this is a green-white token commander, so basically I ended up just looking for anything that said token on it, anything that would make me a token, and if I had that, I was playing it, basically. So this was my commander. I went with the green-white deck. Let's go through the curve here. Put this commander down here. So I had 2 copies of this Steadfast Unicorn. Pretty good. It's a 1 mana, 1/2. But it has this activated ability, 4 mana. Creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain Vigilance until end of turn. Activate only during your turn. But in a go-wide deck like this, that's really big. And also, giving them Vigilance is super relevant as well, because you might want to make a big attack against, everyone or just against one opponent, but you need to have some blockers back as well, and Vigilance is good for that. But also, only 4 mana for this effect is pretty cheap, I feel like. In a standard set, I would expect that to be, 5 or 6 mana, maybe even more. But this card, it impressed me, so I definitely would play 2 copies of this again if I were to draft this format again. Had this Bane's Invoker, 2 copies of that as well. It was pretty good. I never actually activated its ability, but there were some times when I was thinking about it at least, but just being able to pay, like 8 is a big cost, right? Pay 8, but up to 2 creatures get +2/+2 and gain flying till end of turn. I kind of just felt like that could be a way to close out some games where it could be in a stalemate, and I just need to get some evasive damage in. So I think this card is pretty decent, and yeah, 8 is a lot, but this is a late game card for sure. Glunch. I got a Glunch. That was pretty cool. I thought about playing this as my commander instead of the Kadira. Like, I could have just swapped them out, and that probably worked just fine. But I played Kadira as the commander, and this in my, I guess, in my 59, not in my 99, because In draft it's you draft 60 card commander decks, but Glunch was actually quite good. So it's a 3 mana 0/5 flyer. At the beginning of your end step, choose a player. They put 2+1/+1 counters on a creature they control. Choose a second player to draw a card. Choose a third player to make 2 treasure tokens. So this is like a group hug commander. But actually, when I drew this in my opening hand, I believe, and I was a little bit afraid to play it at first because I thought that it might start giving my opponents too much advantage. But then I saw how the turns kind of played out to where I was able to choose which opponent to give which of these bonuses to the point where the bonus gave them, like, it was very minimal for them. So I believe every turn I just drew a card with this, but then I would choose an opponent who either had 0 creatures or maybe like a 1/1 token and let them put counters on either their nothing or their little thing, and then give the treasures to someone who seemed like maybe their hand was a little bit lacking, so like they wouldn't really be able to do that much with the extra treasures. But Glunch did impress me, and being a 0/5 flyer is quite relevant. Being able to block stuff in the air, 5 is quite a lot of toughness. So I was impressed with that card. I drafted a couple of these under Cellar Myconid. I never drew these, so I can't really say much about them, but they seem pretty decent. Whenever it enters the battlefield or dies, you make a 1/1 Saproling. And you can also tap to add mana of any color, so it's a 3 mana creature. But I liked this because it gives me tokens, and I need tokens to make my commander work. So it seems pretty decent. Pilgrim's Eye. It's been in standard a bunch of times before, I think, but it's just mana fixing on a creature. Recruitment Drive, pretty cool. I never cast this also, but this was just a way to make some tokens, kind of get the engine going, because the thing with this commander is it doesn't make tokens unless you already have tokens, so you need at least 1, and then that will give you 1 more, and then next turn, say you have those, you would get 2 more, but you need something to get it started, so I just took things like this to get my tokens started. Got a Scouting Hawk. I did play that once. It was pretty good. It's kind of like a little bit like a land tax, kind of better in a way because it puts the land into play, but it's not better than land tax. Like, it's a common 3 mana 1/1 flyer, but it's, for what it is for a common card, it's pretty decent. Inspiring Leader. This card is pretty cool. So it's one of these backgrounds. I didn't play it as a background, I just played it as an enchantment. But commander creatures you own have creature tokens you control get +2/+2. So that's definitely good in a token deck, I would think. Actually, in the pod that I played, there was one thing that happened that was pretty funny. One of the players drafted a few backgrounds and was playing them in their deck, but then they ended up playing Tasha, the Planeswalker, as their commander. So they played one of the backgrounds, and then I read it, and I said, so that does nothing? So then they read it and realized that the backgrounds say commander creatures you own have this, and their commander was not a creature, it's a Planeswalker, so the background did literally nothing. It was kind of funny. We had a good laugh. Carefree Swinemaster was pretty good. It's just another way to get some tokens, but pay 2 mana to get a 2/2 that's tapped and attacking. Seems pretty decent. It has some nice toughness that I can attack in and probably not die right away. Flaming Fist is another background. This was quite good, and it works pretty well with this commander also. Gives your commanders double strike when they attack. It's pretty cool with this because this one triggers when it deals combat damage. So if it has double strike, it's going to get 2 triggers. You can get so that's actually quite nice, actually, because say you have 3 tokens from something like this. This would trigger, make 3 tokens. You have 6, then it'll hit them again. It'll trigger for the second time, and you'll get 6 more. End up with starting with 3, ending with 12 tokens. So this was my pre-release promo. Bramble Sovereign. This is a reprint, so people know this is a very good card, like it was back in Battle Bond, and it still is now. This card is quite good. I played this, and it was good. So this was the reason that I wanted to play green, and it worked out pretty well with that. This Ellen Harbree's Busybody. It was another card that works well with tokens. You can tap this and get some card advantage if you've made tokens on your turn, but I never actually got to use the ability. I drew this. I don't remember if I actually played it or not, but I definitely didn't use the ability, but it seems like a fine card to have in a deck like this. Got this Halsin Emerald Archdruid. This is another one that I just never drew. But this also seems quite good in tokens. You can pay 1 to have a token become a green bear with power and toughness 4/4 until end of turn. And you can also get a background if this is your commander. But it seemed pretty good to be able to turn my 1/1 rabbits into 4/4 bears for just 1 mana. It seems like a pretty decent combination, actually. This Under Mountain Adventurer, once again, didn't draw it, but it seems like a pretty good card. So 4 mana, 3/4 Vigilance. When it enters the battlefield, you take the initiative. I'll just say, taking the initiative seems very powerful. That's one thing that helped me out a lot in my game. I played a common that let me take the initiative, and I never lost it. Nobody else took the initiative from me for the rest of the game, and I feel like that played a big part. So I should say that I did manage to win my pod, but I feel like the initiative played a big part in being able to do that. The effects that you get from the Undercity dungeon are pretty strong, actually. Like compared to the dungeons from the previous D&D set, I feel like this dungeon is quite good. So I think initiative is a pretty powerful effect to have. Also, though, what it does is you can tap to add 2 green, or if you completed a dungeon, add 6 instead. So it's a pretty powerful card there. This Tabaxi Toucaneers, if that's how you say it. Anyway, it's a 3/2 flying with Myriad. Pretty decent. I cast this, didn't really do much with it because the game was pretty much over at that point. But 5 mana for a 3/2 flyer is not great, but being able to attack all of your opponents with it is pretty decent. And also, this does make tokens, which works well with Kadira. This can, if I have 0 tokens and I have these in play, this will start the tokens that I need in order to get her going, because these are going to come into play before she deals damage. This is that common that gave me the initiative, and for what it was, it did a lot of work. I initially wasn't sure about even putting this in my deck, but I'm quite glad that it did. 3/6 Vigilance is pretty decent, actually. It's a lot of toughness, and having Vigilance allows it to block and keep your opponents from taking the initiative from you. Contraband Livestock, another one I did not draw, but it's a 2 mana instant removal. It just exiles a creature, which is great. They get a token, but even if they get a 4/4 Ox, chances are that's going to be much worse than whatever you're going to exile with this. So I think this card is quite good, actually. Your temple is under attack. Just flexible, instant kind of a combat trick. Get indestructible or get some card advantage. Manifold Key is a reprint. This is a good card. Giving your creature unblockable is pretty great. I think many people are aware that Manifold Key is pretty decent. So this next is the white rare that I said made me want to play white. So I don't remember if I first picked this or not, but I took it quite early on. Ascend from Avernus, X, white, return all creature and planeswalker cards with mana value X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, then exile this. Pretty powerful effect, but the thing is, I got 2 of these. Also, I didn't draw either of these in my game that I had, but it's pretty sweet to have 2 of these, even though I didn't draw them, because I managed to not need them. But yeah, this card seems quite good to me. Still late game thing that can bring back basically your whole graveyard. Nature's Lure, got 2 of these as well. It's pretty sweet. Nature's Lure is always good to have in Commander. Took a Universal Solvent as a universal removal spell. It's expensive, but being able to destroy any permanent is pretty good. This card was pretty decent, actually. You're confronted by robbers. The mode that I used it for was to tap 3 creatures, which was quite relevant. I was able to use that to kind of close out the game a bit. I was able to get in some damage through my opponent's big blockers, because I was going, the deck is go wide. So if my opponent's going big, then it can be, their thing is just going to eat up some of my attackers, but tapping stuff down turned out to be pretty relevant. Poison the Blade, basically a removal spell kind of thing. It's a combat trick that draws a card. It's pretty decent. Great Sword of Tyr, this seemed cool. It's another one I didn't play. feel like I'm saying that for probably half of the cards, but like I said, if it's just one game for the pre-release, you're not even going to draw a lot of the cards in your deck. Anyway, 2 mana artifact. Whenever equipped creature attacks, put a 1/1 counter on it and tap up to one creature defending player controls. It goes for just 1 white though, so that seemed like a pretty powerful effect for what is quite a low cost, 2 mana to play, 1 mana to equip. Cut a deal, I had 2 of these actually. It seems like pretty decent white card draw. 3 mana, each opponent draws a card, then you draw a card. You draw a card for each opponent who drew a card this way. So if you have 3 opponents, it's each of them gets to draw 1, but you draw 3 for 3 mana. That's actually pretty good, I feel like, even outside of limited. Like, this might actually be some decent white card draw. This overwhelming encounter. Basically like an overrun effect. But, great for a go wide deck. So that's the deck that I played. I managed to win the pod. It was a lot of fun. So I said I was going to open up my prize packs. I should clarify that is prize pack, singular. One thing that's kind of weird, I thought, was so everyone gets a pack for prize support, which is fine. But then apparently, I guess what the guidelines from Wizards said was basically you're supposed to hand out any of the extra packs to players for doing things like being the most friendly or the most helpful or something like that. So what we ended up just doing at the store I went to was just rolling a die and giving them out randomly, which I prefer over those guidelines from Wizards. Because the thing with that is, like, how do you judge who was the most friendly or who was the most helpful? That's, a purely subjective thing. So I feel like at a lot of stores, it would just be someone giving it out to their friend, or who, like, it was basically a popularity contest, right? So I would prefer just to give them out randomly at that point. But anyway, here's the pack that I got. Let's open it and see what's inside. It'd be nice to get, there's one of the signed cards. What's that? Ancient Brass Dragon. I was going to say it'd be nice to get one of the Mythic Dragons. Here's a foil mountain with a big dent on it there. That's weird. Actually, is that a dent? It's not a dent, it's a air bubble. Interesting. Kobold. It's pretty cool. Nice to see another kobold. It's a tribe that I'm a fan of. This thing. Getting lots of things. Ambitions cost. Alright. Some black card draw. Sivirus. Lots of black cards in this one. Bone Collar Cleric. Minsk and Boo. Alright, that's pretty cool. Got a mythic there. Can't really be too unhappy with that. I think this is a pretty decent mythic too, right? So that's cool. Candlekeep Sage. Tavern Brawler as the etched foil. So you get an etched foil in all of the set booster packs. Mirror of Life Trapping. 4 mana, whenever a creature enters the battlefield, if it was cast, exile it, then return all other permanents exiled with Mirror of Life Trapping to the battlefield under the owner's control. So you can do some weird shenanigans with that. Interesting. And a Mazzy Truesword Paladin. I actually got this in my draft as well. I drafted this card because for a while I was thinking about potentially playing this just so I would have access to a third color. But it seemed like my red cards weren't really strong enough to warrant playing the third color, and the green-white commander that I chose I feel like is potentially a better commander than this, because you also need a bunch of auras to make this deck very good. I don't really have that many auras. And a foil, rare, Sculpted Sunburst. Choose a creature you control, then each opponent chooses a creature they control with equal or lesser power. If you chose a creature this way, exile each creature not chosen by any player this way. So I read that, but I don't understand what it does. I would have to read that a few times. It's a little bit confusing wording, but it seems like it's a kind of wrath in a weird roundabout way. I'll reread that and try to get a better hold of it. Anyway, there's a 4 rare pack. It's pretty cool. Pretty happy with the Minsk and Boo there. Alright, so that's how my pre-release went. If you went to one, I'd be interested to know how your experience was. What do you think of the set? Did you have fun at your pre-release? Let me know what commander you played, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, though, if you're still watching, thanks for watching. It'd be cool if you can like and subscribe and all that kind of stuff. This is a cool goat token, I just realized. But otherwise, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.